AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio.
Let's ride!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. We are here at SEC Football Media Days 2025 from what is formerly Radio Row, now Digital Drive, as they call it. And the Tennessee Volunteers currently making their way around the second floor here at the College Football Hall of Fame in downtown Atlanta. So we'll see if we'll catch up with some of these players just a bit as Josh Heupel and the Vols look to build upon their college football playoff appearance from a year ago, but they'll have to do so without Nico Iamaleava, which makes them one of the more interesting conversation pieces around the league and around college football because of how that transpired with losing their starting quarterback due to an NIL dispute. One of the people nationally who is quite high on LSU is Lindy's magazine. Lindy's has LSU preseason number 5 in the country, and they picked Garrett Nussmeier as the preseason first-team All-SEC quarterback. Well, Lindy Davis is Lindy of Lindy Sports, and had a chance to visit with Lindy and get a thumbnail preview of the SEC. We are very pleased to be joined now by Lindy Davis. You've heard of Lindy Sports? Well, he's Lindy. Lindy Davis is with us. Glad to have you, sir. How are you?
Man, I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's our pleasure. We always enjoy getting to visit with you. How much time goes into producing this preseason magazine?
Well, a lot. My editors, Anthony Domino is my senior editor. He really starts the ball. He assigned stories way back in January, February. And then we've assigned got photos to be assigned by my photo editor. That's Artie Moore. He's been with me since I started 44 years ago. He's an official photographer for the SEC for the last 38 years, too.
Wow.
So they start the ball rolling, and the stories start coming in. Wow. Sometime in late April, early May. And then we're proofing for 2 or 3 weeks, and it's a lower product. We do 5 magazines in 5 weeks. It's not one. Mm-hmm. If it was one, it wouldn't be so bad. Yeah. But we do our national college first. We do our pro football second.
Do Matt's moment.
SEC is third in the cycle, and we do our fantasy football, then Big Ten. So it's 1 of 5. It's quite a grind, to be honest.
Well, for some reason, it won't stop
always holds up. We were joking and we were talking before our whole crew picked up Lindy's in the airport in New Orleans.
I like to hear that. I like it. Multiple sales. I like that.
Lindy sat down and said, I like your magazine. I was like, well, there's plenty of them around here. Going through the SEC this year, what was the most challenging team to try to peg?
Wow. So you really need to ask Anthony Domino because he does all the picks.
Sure.
I really hadn't done the picks in 39 years.
Sure.
My editors do the picks, but taking into account the portal, and I think that's really the reason we got LSU 5th in the country. They got 6 players. I know this. They got 6 players, according to 24/7, the top 50 portal players. Yeah. So we think they got 6 studs. If you're the top 50 portal, you're a stud. Yeah. I mean, basically, they got 6 studs coming in. They got the quarterback back, get Perkins back. So you got your other linebacker. There's a stud. Weeks. You got 2 of the best defensive players in the league. But no doubt the portal was huge in picking LSU field and then having Nussmeier back at quarterback.
Why? I know there's a lot of people here going to pick Texas. You all have him preseason number 1 as well. New quarterback, but a quarterback we all know, right? So
we know him better than the quarterback's coming back.
Right. I mean, that's the sort of thing. But the experience lacks. So why Texas there at the top?
Well, they've recruited really well, as you know. So they've had top 5 classes for the last 3 years. They did well in the portal too. You know, and they do pretty well in NIL money at Texas, as you know.
Sure.
So they got a big NIL budget, and then everybody thinks Arch Manning is, fantastic. He hadn't played much, but everybody's certainly got the genes. He's got the ability. They've got probably the deepest running back core in the country. Got 2 or 3 of the best defensive guys in the country. A couple of the best linebackers in the country. So they're talented. You could, in my humble opinion, Matt, top 9 teams all the way through Georgia. We got Georgia number 9.
Yeah,
you could probably make a case. You could probably make a case for 1 to 9 almost. Yeah. I mean, I think after 9, you're in a different category the way I see it. But any of those 9 teams, you could make a possible case for. A lot of people wonder why we got Georgia at 9. Well, they got a lot of question marks this year. They really do. Got question quarterback, offensive line. They lost 7 guys in the NFL. Lost another stud to Missouri. So they've got question marks, but. Do they have the talent to win the championship? Of course they do. Everybody knows how they've recruited. They got Kirby Smart coaching them. So everybody's got question mark. Somebody's got to be number 1. So.
Yeah. George, I was reading in your magazine, 45 of their scholarship players are sophomores, juniors, seniors, meaning almost half of their roster is made up of freshmen and first year.
They're a young team. On paper, you would say last year was their year and next year's their year. Yeah. On paper, but it doesn't. Don't play it on paper, so you never know how to play work. Sometimes they mature very quickly.
Yeah.
But it is a young team, and again, they've got more question marks than they've had in, I would say, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Lindy Davis is with us of Lindy's. I was also interested in a team that some people are 2 teams in the league that some people are projected very high. You have maybe more in line where I would think they'd be. Oklahoma's at 12, South Carolina's at 13. I've seen top 10 love for them. Right. But they're in, as you said, there's that line after Georgia at 9 where there's a significant drop-off. So what are your thoughts there on the Sooners and the Gamecocks and their opportunity to maybe make a run?
My thoughts are Venables better win this year. He's gone.
Yeah.
There's no question. This is 4th year. Oklahoma, as you know, they got one of the top 5 programs in the history of college football. And he's at 500, basically, 27, 25. He's got to win this year. They got this quarterback coming in. It's supposed to be really good from Washington State, and they brought in the coordinator who's a hot shot. So, we'll see. But we're projecting them to make a big step up. The pressure's on. They're sudden death for their coach. He knows it. Everybody knows it. So, if the quarterback and coordinator is as good as they were awful on offense last year, everybody knows. So, if they make that step up, they usually play pretty good defense. So, we're projecting them to make at least a step up and maybe save Venables' job. You asked about South Carolina.
South Carolina.
They got the quarterback. He's possibly the most dynamic player in the country as far as maybe besides Arch Manning or maybe with Arch Manning. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's like a running back playing quarterback, but he can really throw it. So he's something to watch. They got the defensive lineman. Story's a terrific player. So they've got some stars. They did lose some talent. They lost the other 3 guys on the defensive line. So they got some players to replace. But they really showed out last year what they could do. They played everybody, played everybody to the wire almost in the games they lost. So we'll see if they can make that next step. It's one thing to be at the bottom and then kind of sneak up. Now they're kind of looked at. They're not going to sneak up on anybody. So we'll see how South Carolina handles that because they hadn't been there very much.
Same with a school like Vanderbilt this year, who They bid a lot of people, on their way to a 7-6 record, but got a lot of guys back.
A lot of players love Pavia. They got an extra year.
How about that?
It really changed the look of a lot of teams. I know Alabama, Jefferson, they got a good linebacker that was out. Now he's coming back, and I know other teams do too. So that really affected a lot of teams, and he's exciting to watch. I saw him beat Auburn. I saw him beat Alabama.
Yeah. You mentioned Alabama. Obviously, I think both Alabama and Auburn are fascinating this situation. Hugh Freeze was here a bit ago. It feels like he's another one that's up against it, has to win this year. And then Kalen DeBoer, I don't think they're used to 4-loss seasons in Tuscaloosa. So a lot of expectation on those 2 guys.
They are not used to 4-loss seasons. DeBoer had really bad luck. And I'm not defending the 4 losses. They're not defending, some of it wasn't good. 2 things happened, though, really. He lost his coordinator at the last minute. Grubb is his right-hand man, has been for his whole career. And Pete Carroll got fired at the last minute, and he stayed in Seattle. That was a big loss for him. He's there with Alabama this year. I think that's a big plus. The other big loss is he was tied to Canada. He was tied to Milroe last year. And Milroe, he looked great against LSU. He looked great against Georgia. he was awful in 3 or 4 games. I'm sorry. There's no sugarcoating. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. He was terrible in 3 or 4 games, and you can't play with you can't win with terrible quarterback play. So he was tied to Milroe. So we'll see. Alabama looks really good on paper. Actually, they had about 3 or 4 defensive guys that all came back, could have gone pro. Mm-hmm. So their defense looks real good. They've got, of course, Ryan Williams on offense, a lot of talent on offense. So we'll see. But I think his first year was kind of, a lot of people felt like it was Saban's team still. This year it's not. It's totally DeBoer's team. So there's no excuses this year. Hugh Freeze, Auburn fans have been a bit relying on the fact they've been recruiting top 10 classes, which they have the last 2 years, even though the on-the-field product hadn't been very good, but they had that comfort. Right now, Auburn's ranked about 8th, last in the conference in recruiting. So they better win some games this year. I think he'll get one more year, regardless of what happens, but we'll see. I don't think he's on as hot a seat as Venable, but it is a little hot.
He might be Venables, doesn't win this year, might be the one that's not back, or maybe a Sam Pittman if he retires. There's kind of been that narrative floating for a couple of years now.
Well, it's kind of surprising Sam's still there. I mean, everybody loves him. He's a great guy, and he's done a solid job. But it seems like they kind of crested out about 3 years ago and just kind of treading water.
Lindy Davis, people, obviously, you can get it at the New Orleans International Airport if they've restocked. If they've restocked, because there weren't any on Sunday afternoon when we flew up here because we bought them all. Where else can people get it?
We're on sale anywhere. Anybody sells magazines. If you have a Publix, Barnes & Nobles, really any store that sells magazines, you should be able to find it. If you can't, you go to our website, lindysports.com. And order it, or you call our office, 205-871-1182.
That is lindyssports.com, back-to-back S's, lindyssports.com. He's Lindy. He's Lindy Davis. We appreciate it, sir.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
We appreciate our conversations with Lindy for stopping by with us. It's After Further Review. We'll knock out a quick break and roll along here from Radio Row Day 2. Our coverage presented by Parrish Construction by Parrish Construction and Roofing. Also brought to you by Relief Windows and Rev. Stay here. It's AFR.
AFR.
Get Gordon and get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, it's not your fault. Do what injured people in our state have done for 30 years. Get Gordon and get it done. Go to getgordon.com, getgordon.com. The website is an awesome resource to use. You can get client testimonials there, actual client testimonials. You can also chat with an associate there. If you want to learn more about what your options are, you go to the website. There's a little chat bubble. Boom, you're immediately chatting. Or if you'd prefer, you can always call 888-8888, 888-8888. No matter where you are in Louisiana. One of the great things, too, about Gordon and his team is with offices all over the state, you don't have to travel. So if you're injured in an accident, the last thing you want to do is have to travel to go see your attorney. Well, they've got offices all over the state. So no matter where you all are, dial the 8s, 888-8888, 888-8888, or go to getgordon.com, getgordon.com, excuse me, getgordon.com. Get Gordon and get it done.
After Further Review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Live from the 2025 SEC Football Media Days, powered by Parrish Construction and Roofing. Enter now for your chance to win $10,000 cash at parrishbuilt.com. Our coverage is also presented by Rev and Relief Windows.
From Radio Row here, Digital Drive at SEC Football Media Days. Glad to have you hanging out with us here. Ben Portnoy stopping by with us, Sports Business Journal. You listen to the show, you watch the show, you know that I'm a nerd that often says I am fascinated with the business of sports because I believe if you want to be good and you want to win, you have to perfect that side and that component of this thing. So thank you for coming by. Good to see you.
Anytime. This is great.
What is, from your perspective, what is interesting here this week? You think, I want to go there and write about that.
No, it's a good question. I mean, I think anytime you can get a bunch of coaches, players, et cetera, coaches in particular, I think, on some of this stuff, what are their thoughts on whether it's, governance things, or what should college football look like? How do you feel about the CFP and all the conversations about expanding, and how did it go last year, right? Like, obviously, you've got a number of teams that were part of it last year and participants. I think that stuff's important because I think it speaks more broadly to the health of college football. What is this thing going to look like moving forward? Like we joked about it before, but I know a lot of people's eyes glaze over a little bit when they hear about the House settlement and things like that. But I do think coaches are the ones who are dealing with a lot of the ramifications of that. And I think, you're able to ask some of that and hear from them on what they have to think. And, certainly Greg Sankey has his hand is involved in a lot of these things. And I think it's important for folks here as reporters and also for the public to hear from him and where things stand on, myriad things going on in college sports right now.
Yeah. When you write about the House settlement, which is super important and transformative, what do you think is the most significant component of that? What are we, 15 days into it?
Most significant thing I think I've learned is that I should have gone to law school to understand all of this stuff. But despite playing, armchair lawyer over here, but look, I think it's a super base level thing, but the fact that you have now essentially legalized the paying of athletes from schools is a huge shift. And I know everyone, kind of looks at it as they've been paying people under the table, whatever, hand a guy a bag or whatever. The fact that you have now codified essentially a way for schools to directly pay athletes in a way that is 180 degree difference from what it was for 100 years, really. Yeah. That's a huge shift. And I think is this thing perfect? Is all the governance pieces that are coming out of this perfect? No, it's going to take time, right? You said it right. We're 15 days into this, but I do think it opens the door to say all right, here's square one. Here's 1A of what this is going to look like. Realistically, in 5-10 years, this is probably going to look very different, but this is at least a starting point. And I think when people get concerned about what is college football going to look like? What is college sports going to look like? This is sort of the literal first step to whatever this is going to look like 5-10 years from now.
Have you given any thought to what it looks like 5-10 years from now?
That's a good question. I think, it's mixed. I think you talk to enough people, I think it's mixed reviews, but I think if you told me that, I think there's a couple of things. I know a lot of people hear about super leagues and the idea of this and hey, is this going to be an NFL style thing where there's 35 teams playing high major college football and that's it?
Oh, I would love that.
Maybe I'm totally ignorant, and I think we've joked about this, but I have a hard time seeing college football being that small, right? I think that college football at its best, and realistically, politically, is something that when it has a little bit of a broader appeal, when it has a national scope, it is something that's important to, not even just the Southeastern Conference, but across the country. So to me, if you told me that, say, hey, 10 years from now, make up a number, 2035, that college football is going to be essentially what the Power Four is now, 65, give or take, teams playing high major college football. You've got some kind of collective bargaining agreement in place that, creates a little more, something that's going to hold up against antitrust law and things like that. And that's essentially what high major college football looks like. I could kind of believe that because I think right now you look at it, it's a little bit, for lack of a better term, bloated. I think a lot of people would tell you that schools at the bottom end of the FBS are playing, essentially a different sport than a lot of schools that are playing at the highest levels of the ecosystem. And so if that's the case, how do you kind of trim the fat, I guess, for lack of a better term?
Yeah.
And also maintain what makes it special. And I think that's where when you say hey, if you end up with somewhere around 65 teams, that feels like a good place to start.
The revenue share component, which you were talking about, obviously legalizing paying players. I'm interested so much in how revenues are going to change and budgets are going to change within athletic departments because most operate at a loss. I mean, you know this. We've talked about this from my audience a lot. Most of LSU last year lost $800,000. LSU operated an $800,000 deficit. That's obviously not sustainable in an era where you have to generate or find $20 million in revenue to now pay your players. When you talk to these different school administrators about this conundrum of where do I find $20 million in my budget, what is the most consistent thing you hear?
Yeah, it's amazing. You can't just shake the couch cushions and have $20 million fall out.
It's incredible.
Right? I think the biggest thing is and I use this example a lot, but I think it speaks a lot to what college sports is in right now. College sports for basically call it 85, 100 years, was basically operating like your average sort of mom and pop business, whether that's, whatever it is, making widgets, doesn't really matter what it is, right? Well, now college sports is operating at a scale and generating the revenues and the profits of a company like Coca-Cola, but they're still doing all the things that they did when it was still a mom and pop shop. And it's like, hey, those two things don't totally work, right? Yeah. And so I think that that's sort of where we're at right now, where you have this sort of confluence of like the old way and the new way. And I think that for college athletic departments, right, like if you made $100 million, you spent $100 million. And like, if you're in a business, in any business, it doesn't really matter what it is, like you're not just trying to break even, like you're trying to make money, or you're not going to have pieces of your department that are losing money and only one department's going to make money and that's just how it's going to work, right? Like, and so I don't say that of like, hey, they're going to cut sports or things like that. I think that's still to be determined. And
I think they're going to cut sports.
Yeah, and I think it's a real question though. But I do think that the thing that I hear from a lot of people is like college athletics hasn't necessarily looked to turn a profit. They've sort of, in a weird way, like almost stumbled into making a ton of money.
Yes.
Without actually making like conscious efforts to do it. But I do think there's simple things like, I think Tennessee's a really good example. Like, I was up in Knoxville a couple weeks ago and talking to Danny White, their AD there, and one of the things he talked about was the way that they did their ticketing system when he first got there. This is in 2021, so not that long ago, 4 years ago, was really outdated. And they basically had, you had someone sitting next to each other. One person was paying $500 a year for those tickets, and one person was paying $5,000 a year. There was no consistency. It was sort of a weird setup in the way that it's just a weird setup in how they had it set up, right? So they basically streamlined it all, sort of reseated everyone, which obviously is an undertaking, right? When you're displacing people who've been in the same seats for years and things like that, that's a large undertaking. Well, they ended up turning around, and they're now generating, I might have this number wrong if I can't remember it exactly right, but essentially they made an extra like $50 to $75 million just by rearranging how they were doing football and basketball season tickets. And that sounds like low-hanging fruit. I mean, it's big dollar numbers, but like there's stuff like that was for not exactly a simple fix, but sort of a simple fix for someone to come in and say, hey, why are we doing this the way we're doing it? And now they're making a lot more money, and their budget has quite literally doubled in Danny's 4 years at Tennessee. So it's stuff like that I think that when you have people who are thinking a little bit more revenue, more, where do we find money? Like that's what I think a lot of college sports needs to do.
A couple more. Ben Portnoy's with the Sports Business Journal. What about non-traditional revenue? Like I would consider ticketing traditional revenue. What are you seeing that schools are doing to generate non-traditional revenue to help with revenue share?
That's a great question. And I think, there's a bunch of different avenues for this. I think concerts is an easy one, right? Like Texas A&M had 100 and something thousand people for George Strait concert a couple years ago. It generated, I think it was $5, $7, $8, $10 million for one night of work, basically, right? Like that's something I think that like
and that was for the athletic department?
For the athletic department.
See, I mean, that was at Garth Brooks a few years back in Tiger Stadium. They sold it out. I'm curious where I would need to check. I don't know where the revenue went.
But, they're generating real money off this thing. So, right, are concerts a way to do that, right? Because you've got these venues that are just sitting there empty, essentially, for outside of 7 days a year. Like, can you use those to better monetize? An interesting one, funny enough, I actually just heard today was Georgia State, which is here in Atlanta, like Sun Belt school, smaller school. But Atlanta has a huge film scene, right? Like, the film industry is massive in Atlanta and in Georgia. Well, I learned this today that Georgia State has like 4 or 5 films a year shot on campus through athletics or something like that. Last year, they generated over $1 million in revenue just off having filmed movies, commercials, etc. Just as like taking over the stadium for 3 days, basically. Wow. And so it's stuff like that I think that, again, like that's capitalizing on where you are, especially in particular, like being in Atlanta for them, right? But that's stuff that I think that like looking at venues that you have that, aren't necessarily being utilized all year round is part of it. And I think too, looking at, it's the things that people hear about, right? Jersey patches, field logos, things like that are like, not necessarily non-traditional, but I do think are things that like college sports has avoided for a long time for whatever reason. And I think that, those things will come. And I think, I think a lot of, you talk to people who work in like basketball and like, I've talked to our NBA writer about this a lot, and, people threw a fit when the NBA wanted to put jersey patches on. And I get it, like, right? Like it's sort of a little bit of a weird dynamic. It's different, whatever. Well, now we're 10 years into that and no one really seems to care anymore.
People get over it.
Right. People get over it. And so I think you're going to see something similar in college sports. Like, yes, is it going to look like NASCAR? No. But I think there's like things that can be done.
People will get over it. People are always resistant to change. It's one of the things I've talked about. It's like, you play a national championship game and you have a patch for the bowl game with a sponsor logo on it. Nobody cares. You're not gonna care. You just want your team to be good and win. You have to have money to win. It's why this is such an important conversation, because it's not that the average fan is going to make more donations or whatever, but it's just an understanding of why the system is working the way it is, so your team can win. I mean, that's what it all plays into. Ben Portnoy, Sports Business Journal. What 2 more days here? Is there anything in particular you're looking forward to the next 2 days, on the field or in your world?
I think it's, I always say this, and I think that, media days is such a funny dynamic, right? Like, I think there's a lot of fans that see it as sort of like the unofficial kickoff to football. You get a lot of, it's sort of talking season, right?
Yep.
But I do think, like, for us, I think in the media, it's a really fun, I think selfishly, it's a really fun way to see everyone and see your friends from around the conference, right?
Sure.
Like, I always joke that it's like the first day of summer camp or the first day of school where you see all your buddies who you haven't seen in like 6 months. And so, selfishly, I'm excited to see a few friends and hang out and all that. But no, there should be some good storylines the next couple days. Lots of good people coming through, and should be some plenty. No shortage of things to talk about, to say the least.
Who do you think wins the league? I'll get you a football question.
Who?
If you had to pick it today.
If I'm picking it today, I'll take it. I'll take Texas. I think Texas should get this done. I think they're replacing a lot, but I think Arch Manning's going to be good enough to keep them stable, and I think they're still stocked.
I just saw in my inbox updated odds for the national championship, and Texas is now the favorite to win the national championship. This is at least at one sports book. So you're not wrong in going with Texas, according to odds makers and others who like the Longhorns a lot. So, Ben, appreciate it, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Anytime. This is great. Thanks.
Okay, man. It is after further review. We'll knock out a quick break. When we come back, our buddy, speaking of Texas, our buddy Erin Hogan, who covers the Longhorns for ESPN. Whoops, that was mine. For ESPN Austin, he'll be with us next here on AFR.
AFR.
Talking about the Watermark and the Renaissance. Watermark, downtown, Renaissance, Southtown. I tell you all the time about Watermark Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge's premier hotel property. Voted by you the best hotel in the best of 225. And yes, if you have family coming in town or you want a staycation, go downtown. Experience Watermark Baton Rouge. The original high-rise building in downtown, the old Louisiana National Bank building, it's been converted now to Watermark Baton Rouge. So they've maintained so much of the beautiful historical significance of the building while upgrading with modern amenities. Great restaurants, both Milford's on 3rd, which is a more casual sort of sandwich shop, and then, of course, the Gregory right there in the lobby. Gorgeous dining experience if you want to check it out downtown at Watermark Baton Rouge. And if you've got an event coming up, remember Watermark Baton Rouge, a wedding reception, any type of awards, banquet, conferences, you can do it all downtown Baton Rouge at Watermark Baton Rouge. Football season's almost here. Remember, Watermark Baton Rouge.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Live from the 2025 SEC Football Media Days, powered by Parish Construction and Roofing. Enter now for your chance to win $10,000 cash at parishbuilt.com. Our coverage is also presented by Rev and Relief Windows.
Here at the College Football Hall of Fame, Erin Hogan, ESPN Austin, good enough to hang out with us here on Texas Day.
Texas.
Kind of feels like the circus is in town with Arch. Is the hype in Austin similar to what it feels like it is everywhere else?
Oh, for sure. But I think the intriguing part of this is just the national swamp. This is like fourth generation SEC kid. That the SEC was going to swarm Arch Manning wherever he was playing. He happens to be at Texas, and this is such a cool scene. And he's turned in. He's been such a really fun player to cover so far. He's, Sark would just say, I've said many times, if you don't look at the name on his back, you just think he's another guy, which that's credit to the man. He's credit to Cooper that he's just a normal kid. We just talked on our show to Michael Taft, the All-American safety who has known, made a friendship with Arch way back when he was, a walk-on freshman and helped get Arch to Texas. And they're very similar. They just love to play football. They love to be good teammates. They love the grind of the game. And I think Arch is going to be great for us here in Austin, Texas. But to see his on the national stage, I'm really intrigued to see how this goes.
I think it's also fair to have the question to say, look, all the physical ability is there, right? I mean, it's undeniable. He checks every box. What he doesn't have is the experience. So, what is fair and realistic for a first-time full-time starter, even a guy that's been in the program now for his third year?
I've made the comparison on our show that he needs to be what Jalen Hurts was for the Eagles last year. And that was about 200 yards a game through the air, about 50 yards a game on the ground, score touchdowns with his legs and his arm, and not turn the football over. I think with this Texas team, and I think Sark has already alluded to it a lot and leaned into it, the defense is going to be their strength. They have a chance to be one of those defenses. Like, Ohio State had last year, or Michigan the year before, or Georgia the previous 2 years. They really have a defense that I think is that loaded that can really be what they lean on, much like the Philadelphia Eagles were, the best defense in the NFL. He needs to play winning football. I think that's what I would want from Arch Manning. Play winning football, try to cut down on negative plays, no turnovers, score in the red zone, those kind of things. I don't think for Texas, and I know Sark has said this, he doesn't need to be putting up the big gaudy yardage numbers and touchdown numbers, and that's going to be great. Then there'll be games like that. I don't think there's any doubt. But in the important games, the biggest games of the year, play winning football.
Erin Hogan, ESPN Austin. What if they lose week 1 at Ohio State?
The sky will not be falling. I think it really depends on how it goes. If it's a competitive game that they lose, it's not going to be panic in Austin. They know, everybody saw it last year, you can lose a game or two and still make the playoff. And they know they have 4 new starters on the offensive line. They have a new quarterback. They've got new weapons to throw to. But at the same time, the one thing that there is continuity there for Arch and company, because that's mostly the second team from a year ago, and that's who was working together, against the first team last year.
That's a good point.
So there is some continuity, but no, there won't be panic. Now this Texas fan base is pretty spoiled. They've gone into Michigan and Alabama in September the last 2 years and got a win, so they expect to go up there and win. They feel like they can go in there and beat Ohio State and get revenge for January 10th, but we'll see it. But no panic. They'll know the biggest games are still to come.
Well, you mentioned 4 offensive linemen gone. One of them, of course, is Kelvin Banks now with the New Orleans Saints. I'll ask you about him in just a second.
Yeah.
But is it fair to say that offensive line is the biggest question either side of the ball going into this year?
Yeah, it is. Well, tight end would be, but they got the Cal transfer, Jack Endries. They when the offseason began, there was no clue who was going to replace Gunnar Helm, who would replace Jatavion Sanders the year before. But Jack Endries came in. So I would say yes, but I think when you talk to Kyle Flood, the offensive line coach, he's very confident, because this is not like they're rushing new guys on the field. It's kind of like Arch. They've been in the program. They've played a lot of football together. Trevor Gooseby has a chance to be a first-round draft pick type offensive tackle. Matt, there was one of the sites reported that Trevor Gooseby, who's 6'7", 300 pounds, 310 pounds, was clocked running 21 miles an hour this year. His brother is a 5-star basketball recruit that's going to go somewhere big, Duke or Texas or somewhere. So he's a very athletic left tackle who can do windmill dunks and things. And so he's a freak at left tackle.
Put him on kickoff coverage, man.
Yeah, they might.
Let him run down
That's
field
too big
somebody.
to be running that fast. But so he's super athletic. They think you're going to lose with Kelvin Banks being out, but same time, Trevor Gooseby got to play last year when Cam Williams and Trevor and Kelvin were hurt. Interior line, DJ Campbell's played a lot of football. He's a 5th-year player. The center that they're going to have has been, waiting behind Jake Majors, but he's been there 3 years in the program. Same with the guard. There are some that think it could actually be a more physical offensive line. They're just bigger. Sark began recruiting the big humans when he got here. And some of the guys who were on the line a year ago that had played so much, Jake Majors and Hayden Connor, they weren't the biggest guys, so they could get pushed around by the Georges of the world, I think. I think they want to be bigger and sturdier, even more athletic up front. So it is the biggest question, but I think it has a good chance to be a strength of the team.
What about defense? What do they have to answer on that side of the ball?
Well, again, the portal, the year of the portal, they added 5 defensive tackles.
Wow.
3 in the early window right before the Cotton Bowl. Kid from Purdue, Cole Brevard, a kid Travis Shaw from North Carolina, and one other. And then they, in the spring portal, added Murad Watson from Syracuse, who was a big get for them. And then one other, they're a kid from Maryland. So they've added 5 defensive tackles, which is where they were going to have to, because they're good everywhere else. Defensive tackle was going to be a question mark. Could they fill those gaps? Because again, they're rolling in Alfred Collins, and those guys are off to the NFL now. So if they can be sturdy against the run, hold up, they have plenty of edge players. Colin Simmons is elite. Trey Moore is elite pass rusher on the other side. They also brought in the Arkansas transfer Brad Spence, who's another really quality pass rusher. Anthony Hill, of course. Then the secondary has a chance to be special with Michael Taft's return and Manny Muhammad, and just a lot of good athletes in the back end. So the biggest question mark is going to be, can they be better this year than they were last year? It's going to be about those 5 transfers coming in and making sure they don't get pushed around, because Texas, for the first year in the SEC, was strong enough on the line of scrimmage.
Over under 2.5 more people walking right in front of the camera as we do this this interview.
Probably. I'm going to go under, but we'll see. We'll see.
I got a couple more for you. Let me ask you about Sadir Mitchell, who's going from Texas to LSU. Talking about a giant human. I think they got him listed at like 350. Dog, that dude ain't 350. He is massive. I know he didn't play much at Texas, but what's a realistic expectation?
I think the sky's the limit for Sadir Mitchell. I think there was the Bo Davis tie there when Bo left to go back to LSU, and now he's off to the Saints. I think there was part of it. He maybe didn't click with the new defensive line coach when that went down, but I think as you said, he's massive. He fills out the uniform. He's exactly the type of trench player you need in the Southeastern Conference. He's a tough kid out of Bergen Catholic in New Jersey. I think he can be really a good player, and Bo Davis not there to coach him now, but I think they're going to be just fine with Sadir.
The schedule is something I always look at whenever I'm doing a preseason prediction. It's who has the fewest amount of questions against the most manageable schedule.
Yeah.
Texas has a big question in Arch, who's a big talent, high ceiling. So but few questions it seems like on the roster. The schedule also seems manageable. As you evaluate that 12-game slate, what are the points on the schedule that are most notable?
Well, in Austin,
maybe a better way to ask it might. Well, you can fit, but where's the toughest part of that schedule?
There are two. The Ohio State game, that's itself. It's a standalone entity that they have all summer to prepare for, but so does Ohio State. Then they get 3 cupcakes, right? They have 3 straight games, at home. Sam Houston being the third of them, and then they're going to have a bye week. That's one. Then they'll have a bye week. So they got 4 games in the books. Then coming out of that first bye week, they're going to play Florida in Gainesville and then Oklahoma in Dallas. So that, to me, I look at that, and then Kentucky and Lexington right after that. Quirk of the schedule, Matt, for Texas is they play Sam Houston, the Bearcats, on September 20th. They don't play a home game in Austin until November 1st. They go 6 weeks. There's 3 road trips, the Texas OU game, and a bye week. So they go from September 20th to November 1st without a game at home. The Dallas game is the Red River game. That's a Texas home game this year, which is why Texas and OU are pushing for a 9th conference game, because they lose a home game on the every other year. So that's interesting to me. So I look at that Florida, Oklahoma, Kentucky stretch. I don't think Kentucky's any good, but whatever happens with Florida and Oklahoma, that can you get back up to go to Lexington to play a Mark Stoops team, probably in a night game scenario. And then they play Mississippi State. Then they get another Vanderbilt. Then a bye week. Then it's Georgia. Then it's Arkansas. Then it's A&M. The way I look at it for Texas is there are 4 critical games. There are 8 that I think they'll win. And again, to the Aggies out there, to the Arkansas, Texas will win their home games, I think, and they'll beat Mississippi State, and I think they'll beat Kentucky. So they're going to put 8 wins on the board. And Vanderbilt, they're going to put 8 wins. There's 4 games. So it's Florida, Ohio State, Georgia, and Oklahoma. If they go 2-2, I think they'll be in the playoff. If they go 3-1, they'll certainly be in the playoff. They can't go 1-3. They can't go 0-4 in those 4 games to me. And so that's why I've told people I think the critical game is Oklahoma because you have to win that game. You've got to take care of the business in a game that anything can happen. If you beat Oklahoma, you get 1. You find 1 other win against Ohio State, Florida, or Georgia on the road in tough places to play. You're gonna be a 10-2 team probably in the playoff.
Erin Hogan, ESPN Austin. Thank you.
You bet, man.
We appreciate Erin. Great stuff there talking about the Texas Longhorns. I did just get updated in my inbox, updated odds to win the national championship. And this is from our friends over at Bet Online. Texas now 6-1 to win the national championship, followed by Georgia and Ohio State, both at plus 650, 13-2. So Texas now the betting favorite to win the national championship. It's After Further Review. We're brought to you by South Point Volkswagen and SouthPointVW.com. New and certified pre-owned in Baton Rouge and online at SouthPointVW.com, SouthPointVW.com. Remember, Louisiana's largest volume Volkswagen dealer is South Point Volkswagen. They're conveniently located on Airline Highway in Baton Rouge, just north of Highland, and they're online at SouthPointVW.com. So you can shop online. You can work out your financing online. You can see all the dealer specials online, SouthPointVW.com. South Point Volkswagen, what's your direction? All right, we're here from Radio Row, Digital Drive, at SEC Football Media Days. I know, it's whatever. I mean, it's not It's not Radio Row. They call it Digital Drive now. All right, it's Radio Row. It's what it is. We'll knock out our final break here of hour number 2. Come back to wrap up hour number 2. And Jay Phillips, our buddy from Columbia, South Carolina, is going to join us in about 14 minutes from right now. We didn't get a chance to catch up with him about the Gamecocks yesterday. Such a heavy LSU day. So we'll do that, mostly because LSU does play the South Carolina Gamecocks this year. So we'll make sure we check in on all the LSU's opponents. So we'll do that as we continue here on AFR.
After further review.
Action Industries, proud partner of LSU Athletics. Look, there's a lot of great industrial contractors, names we know and have been around for a long time. And some of them are awesome mega contractors. But sometimes maybe you have that 100-person job and you hire one of the mega contractors and you don't feel like you're getting their best. Because maybe you're not a priority when they're doing $200 million jobs. Well, Action Industries, one of the great things about them is they know what they are. Their sweet spot is that 100-person job that we're talking about. You will get all of their best people. And remember, at Action Industries, they also have the advanced turnaround group. So we're in turnaround season through October. So when you got that turnaround coming up, you need someone to bid your turnaround. Our friends over at the advanced turnaround group, part of Action Industries, would love the opportunity to bid your job. They've been around for as long as I've been alive, 43 years in business. They're a proud partner of LSU Athletics. It's Action Industries. Check them out online. It's Action Industries.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Live from the 2025 SEC Football Media Days, powered by Parish Construction and Roofing. Enter now for your chance to win $10,000 cash at parishbuilt.com. Our coverage is also presented by Rev and Relief Windows.
Moving quickly here, also, of course, Tuesday sponsors, Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Appreciate them so much. You want a Deere, bunky and below, you know where to go, sunnyquip.com, sunnyquip.com. All right, we're putting a button on hour number 2. Muso. Tigers in the Pro.
Tigers in the pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
All right, Major League Baseball All-Star Game tonight, which means Paul Skeens is on the bump. He'll start for the National League squad. Second consecutive year, Paul Skeens has started the All-Star Game for the National League team. Of course, did so a season ago as a rookie. Will do so again here tonight. It's been a phenomenal season for Paul Skeens, not from a win standpoint, obviously, because the Pittsburgh Pirates are horrible, but from just a standpoint of stuff, Paul Skeens has been incredible. A sub-2 ERA, 2.01 ERA from Paul Skeens so far on the season, and 131 strikeouts in 121 innings pitched. So probably go an inning, and we'll see where it goes from there. Of course, Alex Bregman on the American League All-Star team squad from LSU as well. WNBA action a night ago. Angel Reese records yet another double-double. This one 22 points and 10 rebounds. Continuing some hot shooting from the floor, 9 out of 14 for Angel Reese. Did get into a little bit of foul trouble with 3, but still played 37 minutes. Anissa Morrow and the Connecticut Sun, they will be in action tonight in WNBA. If you're looking for something there, we'll give you an update, obviously, on how Morrow does. In that one, she's had quite the rookie season so far for Connecticut. Also, Open Championship getting underway here in a couple of days. Sam Burns be in the field over there at Royal Portrush. That's Tigers in the Pros.
Presented by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. With 9 locations in all, remember, you will never find a lab or man-made diamond. Every diamond in the case, a beautiful natural diamond. Scott goes all over the world, goes to India to shop some of the finest diamond mines in the world to bring home the best selection of Lee Michaels. Every diamond before it goes into the case is hand-inspected by a family member, and they have perfected over 4 decades the Lee Michaels experience. They do an amazing job. You'll never feel pressured. You walk in, it feels like it's going to be something important, an experience when you walk into Lee Michaels, because it should. You're buying something that is going to express your love forever, and something that will be passed down through generations of your family. It should feel like a big deal. It is, and Lee Michaels has perfected that Lee Michaels experience. 9 locations in all and online at lmfj.com. lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. All right, y'all, it is After Further Review. Wrapping up, one more hour to go. We will talk to Jay Phillips, who covers the South Carolina Gamecocks. Also, we're going to check in with the new executive director of the Senior Bowl. We'll do that coming up next hour as well. Of course, Jim Nagy now working for the Oklahoma Sooners as their general manager. So some changes at the Senior Bowl. We're looking forward to that. LSU's had a great relationship there over many years. Also in hour number 3, I want to take some time to talk a little bit about both Tennessee and Auburn. We've talked Georgia, we've talked Texas. I want to make sure we talk Tennessee and Auburn. 2 teams that coaches, you feel that have a lot on the line this year, but boy, do they have some real sincere questions. I left this event a year ago high on Auburn, and they were disappointing. And I don't know that I'm going to be fooled twice, but boy, Hugh Freeze had some fascinating things to say about his quarterback, Jackson Arnold, coming in from Oklahoma. So we'll get into all that in hour number 3. From Radio Row here at SEC Football Media Days.
After Further Review.
Love telling you about our friends at the Williamson Eye Center. Dr. Blake Williamson is just the best. You know, whenever I packed to come here this week, what I didn't pack were an extra pair of contact lens, contact cases, contact solution, the prescription glasses that were probably 5 prescriptions, not good and old, that didn't really work for me anymore, but I never went to go upgrade the prescription because I just wore them at night. But then if I had to drive at night, it was problematic because I couldn't see real well. Anyway, all that to say, I had LASIK 7 years ago, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. If you ask someone who's had LASIK, they will tell you the same thing. Best money I ever spent. Should have done it years before. And I'm telling you right now, let this be the kick in the tail for you to call the Williamson Eye Center to go for that consultation. 924-2020, 924-2020. Call them right now. 924-2020 or log on to williamsoneye.com. That's Williamson, EYE.com.